They ask me who I am. Yeah. They ask me who I am. I told them I'm an Israelite. That's right, I'm an Israelite. They ask me where I'm from. I told them you can pick a side. We worldwide, I'm an Israelite. Whether through scripts or history, no, I can show you. In the army of Yahuwah, oh boy, I'm a soldier. Yeah, they ask me who I am, I told them I'm an Israelite. That's right, I'm an Israelite. When I say Israelite, they say you Jewish. Look, don't be foolish, come get a dose of this mental renewing. See how we brew it, it's just different. Like, for instance, first thing to know, brother, it's a culture, no religion. Talking the bloodline, they say we Jacob children. And yeah, that's a factor, but what really matter, how we living? Given that we gotta get Beseda, that mean in order. For that we got that Torah, some brothers we got Basora. Of course, and some don't believe, but that don't matter today. I ain't tryna throw no shade, as long as we all stay in the way. That 613, we coolin' like palm trees. A couple they got, you ain't a fan, know what I mean? They ask me who I am, I told them I'm an Israelite. That's right, I'm an Israelite. They ask me where I'm from, I told them you can pick a side. We worldwide, I'm an Israelite. Whether through scripts or history, no, I can show you. In the army of Yahuwah, oh boy, I'm a soldier. Yeah, they ask me who I am, I told them I'm an Israelite. That's right, I'm an Israelite. He said that we the light, got no choice but to shine. By the sweat of your brow, now you see why we grind. How we do, and we move to keep that ruach in our midst. When we eat, I got a list. Wanna build, break out them scripts. We don't hate and we don't diss. We ain't worried about another. He called us his firstborn. You can call us big brother. Look deeper and you'll discover. In your movies and shows, truth been exposed. What you know about those captured and sold. The Igbo and the Ashanti. Check out the history, never lost. Ain't gotta find me. Right where we meant to be. Rebellion led to expulsion. Repentance fixed that. Y'all gotta get back. I can call them big facts. They ask me who I am, I told them I'm an Israelite. That's right, I'm an Israelite. They ask me where I'm from, I told them you can pick a side. We worldwide, I'm an Israelite. Whether through scripts or history, no, I can show you. In the army of Yahuwah, oh boy, I'm a soldier. Yeah, they ask me who I am, I told them I'm an Israelite. That's right, I'm an Israelite.
Hey, we ain't saying this our salvation or nothing, but the Most High just put his name on it, so we represent. All praise. Shalom.
All right. Welcome to another segment of YAH Conscience Radio, where if it's not YAH Conscience, then it is not acceptable. ראשית אני רוצה לתת כבוד ושבח ליהוה אל עליון, or האל העליון, Eloi Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov. First, I want to give honor and praise to He or It to cause us to be or exist. The Most High Power of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Shalom, shalom, everyone. Shalom, how was your week so far?
Hallelujah. Shalom, shalom, everybody.
Shalom.
All right. It's almost over. Today is, Yom Hamishi, some people say. Thursday. One more day, and, for some, it's Shabbat. They have rest, so you get to unwind and let some of whatever's going on, just seize, day of seizing, right? That's the basic definition of it. Correct me if I'm wrong, somebody. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, it's right and exact.
All right, so today we have an interesting topic. I think it's a really good topic, actually, because we actually dealt with this. So it really hit home. The name of the topic or the title of the show is what's an oxymoron for 100, Alex? What's an oxymoron for 100, Alex? What comes to mind when you all hear that, as it pertains to, you know, Israel? Of course, we're going to go over the topics, great topics, but what comes to mind when you hear that? Anyone? What's an oxymoron?
What's a dysfunction that we collectively complain about, but make no movement towards the things we complain about? Make no movements. Make no movements towards changing the things that we complain about. That's what comes to mind in terms of the topic tonight.
Okay. Appreciate you. Anyone else?
Yeah, oxymoron, man. It's interesting. That term is I think it's one of the more lesser or the least used terms that we hear people deal with. I think people should use it more often, because we know by definition it's basically it's a contradiction. It's like saying military intelligence, you know, or peaceful war. It's like, what? There's no such thing. And so in relationship to what we're going to be dealing with in these topics, dealing with these concepts and these tropes that we as a people use on a day-to-day basis, but upon further investigation, we find that our actions are diametrically opposed to it.
Okay. Yeah. Anything for you? Good, better, Kathy? No pressure.
Still trying to get stabilized over here, so.
I understand. Yeah, but you still came through. Because it's like, man, this technology is supposed to be just, but I guess it's flaws and everything, right? All right, for me, oxymoron. I mean, you all nailed it. I really don't have anything to add to it. I do agree with Chief. It should be brought out more. That's why I like these topics, because I think a lot of the topics that we're going to speak on, people don't realize that they're doing it. So, I'm going to realize it today. So, first topic of tonight, and it is, let's bring it up. How can we distinguish the oxymoron in our communities where we complain about not having our own social media platforms / networks, but we won't support when people within our own create what we complain about or complained about? This is a great question. I'm gonna read it again for those that might be tuning in later. Or how can we distinguish the oxymoron in our communities where we complain about not having our own social media platforms or networks or / networks, but we won't support when people within our own create what we complained about? Excellent question. I see you over there smiling, Chief, because this hits home. Like Sammy Sosa, Mark McGuire, somebody for us, right? Oxymoron, would you lead us off with it, if you're able to?
Kane, so something that I had quite noticed within our own communities is that we drive off of the dramatics. And the reason why I say that, because once someone create a platform within our own, it's mostly going to be about positivity or something that they are not used to submitting to. The energies that they may not be used to submitting to, the topics and the things that would be exposed on these platforms that they are necessarily not used to submitting to, and they simply just don't want to submit to it. Where these other social platforms, you are exposed to a whole lot. You can pick and choose what you want to be exposed to on a collective scale. Where if we create something within our own, there's really no picking and choosing. It's really something permanent. Like, no, this is what it is. And this is what we're about. And it's not the convenience. It's the convenience. It's not too convenient for our people on a large scale. Um, I just think when you have a selective group of people, it doesn't. Yeah, it works, but it doesn't really. It isn't really fruitful unless it's on a collective scale. If it's on a large scale, because I have witnessed being on a platform where it was black owned, or black created, or things like that, but it was never kind of, it never could carry the weight because it was only a selective few that will join it, or give it energy, or give it exposure. um where if we want something to carry the weight, just like all these other platforms, we need the people. We need those numbers.
Okay. I love it.
And a part of, I just think a lot of people don't like to hear it. A lot of people don't like to admit it, but I just think it goes in the portion of Deuteronomy 28. We still got this cloud over us where it's we still kind of like in the wilderness, just wandering, in the wilderness with that mentality. And it just goes on a scale of we are a self-sabotaging people, and we are self-destructive, even when it's to our detriment. And we don't, on a large scale, I won't say on a large scale, because on an individual base and on a selective base, we, some of us do have the eyes to see and the ears to hear. But on a large scale, we really don't have the eyes to see and the ears to hear. And that goes along with the support system within our Black communities and within our own people.
Okay. Man, that was she unpacked a whole bunch on that. Truly appreciate that. Like, the thing that stuck out to me the most, it was two things. I'm trying to think of the second one, but the first one was when she had brought out the drama. We are attracted to drama. The second thing that was kind of connected to it was kind of like the order, the structure. I won't say too much because I know Chief Prince is going to want to speak on it as well. But we had a platform that we brought out called Kahal, and the very thing that our coach Sharon brought out is the very thing that we witnessed. I mean, we put a lot into it, like you would not. I just talked about it today with somebody, and he asked me about it, and I just went in like, look, a lot of people ask about it when me and Chief Prince would get tagged, like, oh, they're still working on it. No, it was there, but the problem is, it wasn't drama filled. It was about building our people. It had rules involved with, not attacking people for the name that they choose. Not going into a woman's a married woman's inbox. I forgot the other two. It was just like 4 major rules. It wasn't even a lot of rules. And people showed up for a minute, but then they left. But then when something like what's that platform everybody go to now? Is it Clubhouse?
Yeah, Clubhouse. A couple of them.
Everybody runs to it, or on Facebook. People just run to it because there's no standard. There's no order. You can do what you want. You could just go where you want and things like that. And I'm not knocking them for it. But here's the thing. How are we going to build our platforms when we are pushing other people's platforms that are outside of ours? And the crazy thing about it is our platforms are based off of, and I'm not talking about ours in particular, I'm talking about in general, those that are so-called Israelites that create these type of platforms, generally it's with the principles of Torah. And what's interesting is our people run away from the principles of Torah to go to what she said, drama. So how can we distinguish the oxymoron in our communities where we complain about not having our own social media platforms, but we want support? It's one of those questions where there's so many different variables. I just don't see it truly happening on the scale that we would like it to be, because it's just so attractive to other platforms to people. It might, like you said, on a small level, people will be doing it, but it's not. I just don't see it. I would love it to be. I had the vision. Me and Chief both had the vision. I mean, if you just knew what would have happened if we had support. So that's why this resonates with me. These questions that was brought out by Coach Ron. But I'm gonna pass the mic. I'm not gonna hog it because I could say so much on this as to why, outside of drama, I believe it is. Stockholm Syndrome, all of the above. I could go down the line, but I don't want to hog the floor. So
I was definitely going into that too.
Yeah. I want to. That's what I'm saying. I know you about to hit home with it, just for the simple fact that we have Quahal together. So I want to pass the mic to Gabetta Kathy, if you're able to. Let's see. What's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, like you said, everyone says this is a good question.
Good question.
Very, very good question. I'm gonna sum it up very, very quickly and easily, because my perspective is that we as a people, regardless if we're dealing with platforms, we're dealing with anything that would allow us to advance as people, we don't like to be disciplined, and we don't like to fall in line with discipline. It seems like when it comes to our people, that because we feel so comfortable from a culture perspective that we can say, feel, or may misinterpret what somebody may think or feel. However, that keeps us from being successful. That's my opinion for as far as that. And then you look at it from a corporate perspective, the people that are not individually individual business owners who get up and strive for themselves every day. The people that work for corporate, whether we realize it or not, we're giving them that discipline. We're accepting that discipline from them, because guess what? They're corporations that we clock in for every day, or the corporations that we partake in, they're successful. And look at who owns these corporations. 9 times out of 10, it's not us. I honestly think that a lot of our issues, our stigma goes back way, 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 way back, just in a thing of respect. I think it goes back to even slavery, like, just being talked to, dealt with in certain ways. We have a certain stigma about ourselves that we just don't feel like we could tolerate that type of behavior from us. But we should have that, and I'm not saying that some of us don't deserve that, but we should have that same attitude towards other people, the corporate people, that again, we go to work every day and we make successful. That's what I have to say.
Okay. I love it. And real quick on the thing that Gabetta Kathy brought out, it's a lady by the name of Dr. Joyce DeGruy. So those of us listening, please get a book called what is it called? Post-traumatic slave syndrome. I have that book. Excellent book. It goes into extreme, meticulous detail as to speaking on what Gabetta Kathy brought out. It's amazing. Chief Prince Ebeline, what you got?
Yeah, I mean, in theory and in practice, I've come to understand, and obviously you come to understand it in the process. Complaining, the thing about complaining is that it's like our most prized scapegoat. It's a scapegoat to complacency. Think about this. Whenever you see somebody, whenever there's a problem that rises up in the community, whatever the problem is, whether it's social media platforms, whether it's domestic violence, whether it's, you name it, whatever the issue is, you see initially there's there's this tidal wave of banter. Everybody's coming in to complain, oh, this and this, whatever the case. And the banter will continue. It'll keep going and keep going and keep going until somebody steps in and says, wow, well, here's a solution. The moment you start talking solution, you're rocking the boat. Because again, as a people, we're accustomed to failure as a people. We're accustomed to failure, and in that failure, we become accustomed to complaining about failure. This is the reason why when you think about hood mentality, think about how when you hear rappers say, "No matter how much money I get, I'm staying in the projects forever." Like that's actually a line from a Mobb Deep song. No matter how much money I get, I'm living in the projects forever. So even when they have the ability to get out of the conditions that they've been complaining about their whole life, of how hard the hood is, and they have an opportunity to get out, why don't they? Some of them do, but even when they do, what happens? They still do hood stuff and ends up losing what they have. And I think it has a lot to do with, again, we have a history of failure. Failure is comfortable for us. Anything that you do over and over proficiently, you become accustomed to it, and it's a comfort. And it's just like women who stay in physically abusive relationships. We ask like, well, wait a minute, you complain about this, you complain about what, but why are you still there? For some of them, it's because this is all they know. They've been living this way so long that there's a certain comfortability involved, and that's what in psychology they call it classical conditioning. And we are conditioned to harp on the problems, but we flee when the solutions come up, because what does the solution does? It solves the problem, and when there's no problem, there's no complaints, and complaints are the bedrock of who we are now. And I think that so I look at it from that perspective, that it's classical conditioning. We're conditioned to react to complaints. So when someone steps in to solve the problem, you're kind of upsetting the status quo, and the status quo is, I want to complain because nothing else is going to bring me joy. The solution will actually take away my joy. That's how I see it. So.
Okay. Appreciate it for those that's tuning in or tuning in later. Welcome to YAH Conscience Radio. If it's not YAH Conscience, it's not acceptable. Please subscribe, share, like, comment. Let us know your thoughts. Did anybody else on the panel have anything to say in regards to this topic? Any comments in regards to what Chief Prince Abulan just brought out?
I did have a comment. When it's been a lot of platforms that I have joined that was created by our own people, and I've noticed that you also have to be mindful of these people who establish these platforms. Mm-hmm. Be mindful of their intentions. Be mindful of their leadership. Be mindful of how their influence. And I say this because I was on a platform and you had men coming on the cameras with their shirts off.
Oh wow.
You had men coming on the camera smoking, all on a platform when we had like conference calls or when we had like certain days where we, join a video call. You had some people on there who was posting a whole bunch of naked women, just fruitless activities. So, that's why I say also with people who create these platforms, you also have to pick through them with a fine pick comb as well. Even though we are the same skin folk, that doesn't mean we are the same kinfolk, But that's it. That's what I wanted to say.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Those again, make sure you subscribe, like, comment, share. Let us know your thoughts. Come forth with any ideas or any other topics you might have. But we're going to go ahead and play the first song of this evening, and this is going to be a King Malachi Night. And the first song is Spiritual Warfare. Or Spiritual Warrior. Wow, I just brutally messed up his title. But you get it. Here we go.
Timeline. Oh my god. Timeline. Oh my god.
Spiritual warrior. Spiritual warrior. Feel like I'm on mountain like Moses. Feeling like King Asa, we the chosen. But now you're in my blood, Messiah in my blood, there's a lion in my blood. I represent it, they ain't heard truth like this in a minute. I ain't had dots in the tail in a minute. I need a queen who can sew all my fringes, lay on my bed and I reminisce how we used to be glorious back in the day. I get excited and make a fist when I think about King David back in the day. Remember Samson? He was a Messiah, he had the power like 300 lions. He had the dreadlocks, he had plenty of power, the power because of his diet. He had the most high, all that they had to do is just follow the script. That was the most high, let David so much that he know how to follow the script. Spiritual warrior. Spiritual warrior. Spiritual warrior. Spiritual warrior. Samuel, anointed a lion of Judah. Nathan, attended a lion of Judah. No other name when we pray his name. Exodus 3, Paul reading name. Connected to heaven like sun in the space. The God that we break with the sun in the space.
Beno Yisrael.
We split Jordan, we split the Red Sea, all for the most high glory. Some of y'all ain't telling it right. Malachi expressed the story. I remember when we had a government. King David was running the government. Solomon, he was running the government. Fell off, he forgot about the covenant. Never compare with the other men. We are the children of Abraham. Black sheep, we belong in the promised land. Bury our body by Abraham. The commandments of God, Levi carried the ark. Saul was sick, David he play on the ark. Spiritual power, my people, we still got the power. We are the people who bear the most high name. Spiritual warrior. Spiritual warrior. Spiritual warrior.
Gang. That was none other than King Malachi.
Yeah, that was a cool song. I've been followed him for quite a few years. I remember he gave me his very first album, like 2007, when he was like just like really starting like really grind. I was like, okay.
King can't wait till I get to my place, man. Because like when I press a button, my screen shifted over here. I'm like, I need to get my screens. So I'm glad it was playing. But yeah, King Malachi definitely is really good, man. His last album, I think, is like White Linen, something like that. That's what this song is from. So those that's wondering, about his album, is called White Linen. If I'm not mistaken, you can find him on YouTube. King Malachi. All right, those tuning in or later tuning in.
That was what, White Linens and Sandals?
That might be it. Did you looked it up?
I know I love that song. White
Oh,
linen and sandals.
it might be. I haven't even heard the song. I'm still going through the album myself. Yeah,
it's very nice. It's very nice.
Okay,
we got it. It's really nice.
Yeah, he was supposed to be at the Brew Year Bash, but
was he the one that had the flight issues?
Yes.
Okay.
We was trying to get him there. They canceled. He was there all the way to like midnight or something like that.
Yeah, I do recall seeing that.
But it still turned out to be a good first Brew Year Bash. It went really well. So, all right, let's go to the next topic. And the next topic is, we complain about politics and systemic racism, but why do we continue to vote and spend our dollars outside of our communities? Again, we complain about politics and systemic racism, but why do we continue to vote and spend our dollars outside of our communities? Let's go in that same order, you all. Let's go in that same order. If you're able to. Hi, Coach Ron, you available?
Okay, and I'm here. So go. So this is a big thing in the politician headlines is that I do not recall her name, but the black woman, she just won chair of the first black woman of being the first black woman of justice, I believe.
Miss Jackson.
Sometimes I feel like we see a black face in these higher up positions solely because they are a black face. But we do not take the time out to skim through their resume and to read or detect certain laws they put in place, certain things that they have supported in the political aspect, certain things that they put in place for the detriment of black people in our communities. Sometimes we do not observe how politics work. We do not observe the patterns of how politics work. I think sometimes we get so caught up on Can y'all hear me?
Okay. We can hear you.
We get so caught up with posture. And for an example, like Trump, we were so caught up on how he delivered things or, how he say things and the fact that he didn't pander. Our people, we love panderism. If you can pander to us, then yeah, you got our vote. Regardless of the things that can help us move forward as a people, regardless of the things that someone does that doesn't help us move forward as a people. As long as you pander to us, then yeah, you have our vote. And I just think for so long it's always been our detriment when it comes to politics. As far as spending your dollars outside of our communities, I'm kind of like on a scale. I'm like, I'm like weighing a scale with that one because a lot of times the prices that our people charge in our communities, it can be a little unrealistic because you can't get it from a cheaper source, meaning like if it be the same white t-shirt with some words written on it and it'd be like $55, $60. You can get the same thing from Walmart, $30 less. However, I do not, and I'm just solely speaking for me, I do not use that as an excuse For those who know me, know that whenever I spend my money, majority of times I spend it with my people, whether it be skincare, whether it be apparel, whether it be jewelry, jewelry, whether it be me directing their products to the next person down the line in my family, or just, exposure. I think a lot of times, I don't know, it's tricky. It's tricky because sometimes your own people can scam you as well. I want to also put that out there as well. I don't want to talk about the good and not bring out the bad. Sometimes our people can be scammy whammy. I've had that done to me plenty of times. But has that made me not continue to support my people? Absolutely not. It just makes me more mindful of who I support and who I don't. It make you more disciplined as well.
Okay.
But that's, you better stop drinking it. But that's pretty much my comment about that. Let's talk about the Black Lives Matter movement. It's been in the headlines that these women purchased a $6 million mansion from the Black Lives Matter movement. A lot of people have not studied the Black Lives Matter movement and the origin of why that movement was created. That movement was created to remove the black men from out the households, or to completely remove the black men. It was originated from the LGBT, for the LGBT people. What did these black communities get out of that movement? What resources, what betterment did our people get out of something that was highly initiated solely for from the cries of our people, from the sorrow and from the racism of our people? What did we get from that? And when you call certain things out like this in our community, then people say, oh, you're a COON, you're a coon, or you're a sellout, or you don't believe in your people. No, sometimes what we do is we do what law tells us to do. We inquire diligently. All we got was a Black Lives Matter avenue and some big bold neon yellow words in the middle of the street of Washington, D.C. But on the other hand, you got these women purchasing a $6 million homes from all these funds that was donated, and nothing poured back into our communities.
Crazy. Crazy.
So I just think, it's just a lot of oxymorons that goes on that we don't want to talk about. Systematic racism. But we continue to, I don't want to put that out there on the platform because I don't want to encourage people not to vote. So I'm going to leave that alone and leave that up to the people to decipher on their own. Yeah. But sometimes you have to sit back and you have to observe the patterns, and you have to observe from thence on to now. And at some point, you're going to have to make a judgment call.
I like it. Good points. Good points. I ain't want to cut your wisdom, though. You still going?
Oh, no.
No. All right. I'll go ahead and go. We complain about politics, systemic racism, but why do we continue to vote and spend our dollars outside of our communities? I think that these are really good questions. I think that the voting question is really important because I think a lot of our people vote ignorantly. I was one of those people. So I got to go ahead and, what's that term called, a kettle black or something? I don't know what that means. So, I think a lot of us do that, and we have done that instead of understanding that local votes are a little more important. Getting our people in office that can help benefit. Like it's a individual, for those of you that know or do not know, by the name of Nasik Rav in Sparta, Georgia. He's a sitting councilman, and he's working towards a lot of things pertaining to so-called, I'll just say so-called black people, just in case we're being watched. So, you know, I think that just understanding, if you do go that route in the voting, make sure you are paying attention to who you're voting for, do your research. And I think more locally should be focused on and getting our people in those positions that are trustworthy, that have a good, you know, track record as to how they move, how they operate, and integrity. But I'm gonna leave it alone, like she said as well. This isn't it to discourage or encourage, but just to get your study on, research it, understand it. The spending the dollars outside of our communities, I think that is very important to understand that that's really what is going on. Now, I won't knock those that, because there are people that's doing, you know, like what Oxymoron is doing as far as supporting our own, but it's not on a large scale. And for us to truly get what we're aiming for, going off the first topic as well, we got to figure out a way to trust. You know, I have a personal business that I'm doing. I'm not gonna put it out there, no shameless plug, to where like my prices is lower than what mostly everybody is paying, literally. And my service is better than what most people are using, literally. And I think it goes. So I'm going on the opposite side of what she brought out, but I think people are just like used to or just prefer. I've had people say that they actually prefer dealing with people outside of our people, you know, just because. Um, so I think it stems back to what Good Better Kathy brought out, what I added on with her, with the whole Joy DeGruy book that you all got to check out. Us dealing with us as far as you know, the post-traumatic slave syndrome type thing that we're dealing with. The trust factor is huge, you know, and some people wouldn't do what Akko Sharon did, to where if she got done bogus, some people are like, oh, I only needed one mistake, I'm going back to over here. They'll stop instead of understanding that was the individual that we dealt with. That's not everyone, you know. I got done bogus. Matter of fact, I still ain't got my garments, Chief. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Well, I still ain't got that, but I'm
yeah,
not
we
gonna.
ain't gonna. Yeah, we're not gonna bring that
I'm
up.
not bringing no names. I ain't saying nothing,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying I'm still gonna support. I can't base everybody off of that situation,
Right.
you know. So I think it comes back to, you know, the complaining. We're just complaining about these things. It's matter of fact. Watch this. I think we're doing this because what was brought out earlier. We love drama. So when you think about it, complaining with no solutions, it's actually just drama. Like we just like to talk about something. We like to complain. We like to throw this out there and, well, if we had this and all that, you know, make a big fuss about something. It just boils back to that. So that's my take on it. You know, the systemic racism, we're falling right into the hands of it, because we continue to, even though we say we don't like it, we got to do something about it. We go right back into it. So I did want to comment too on what Coach Ron brought out as far as the pricing. I ain't gonna lie to you. I was talking to Chief about one of the shirts that, you know, I was putting out. I was like, man, it's like, if I don't price it at this, I'm gonna get $3, $5. So it's like, I think with that being said, I think we just have to research more on who we're getting to make it. I think a lot of us aren't doing that or don't know where to go. So I think that might play a part on it. Or
Yeah,
then again,
I'm gonna cover that as well. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm gonna stop that, because I was about to say, but what she's saying is also true too. Some people just Some people just ridiculously will go high.
That's
But
a fact.
I'm gonna leave I'm gonna leave it at that. Pass the mic to the better Kathy, and then Chief press that line.
Okay, that again. Another good question. Another good question. As far as voting, I definitely think from a community perspective, it's very important. Because you're going to see and feel the effects of whatever law or whatever is passed more quickly than you would of anything of a higher court or anything that's pending Congress. I agree with Sister Sharon that we should not be so fast to appreciate and gratulate someone because of their skin color. That with all jobs, your resume is required. And we're not going to get his or her resume. However, we are required to do our due diligence on our end to find out the most that we can find out about that individual. Now, the one thing I want to say about, I know I'm going to mess it up. I said it to my husband. I'm going to mess it up. Her name is actually, and again, if I mess it up, I'm sorry. I apologize. Katanji, Brown Jackson. And I applaud her. I really do applaud her, because if anyone listened to the questions that were administered to her, especially from these senators from the South, they questioned her previous judgments on pornography. They asked her questions about racism, slavery, that just made no sense to anything that goes on now. But again, if you Google it and look up the people that were asking it, they are people that govern these states, and it clearly shows how they feel. I personally think she's very deserving of her position, and it's a double-edged sword, because you have young girls out here that are looking at this or being taught and learning of this and are being inspired. So we can't take a level of inspiration from our youth that are not yet ready, prepared for the politics, the deep politics of it. I think that's going to be dependent on the household and how you explain it to your child. That clause, if you decide to move along with it. Far as spending outside of our community, I'm like my sister Sharon. I'm like, I guess all of us on the panel. I do my best to do it. I do see a lot of price gouging. But I know that when I started doing some research for myself for things that I wanted to purchase wholesale, I noticed that the prices were ridiculous. And you do have to factor in, what you're going to make of it on it. That's just the nature of the business. Anybody that's in business understands that. We also have to keep in mind that vendors that other people have links to, we don't have links to. We will eventually discover good vendors by trial and error, but it's going to take some time. You got to keep in mind, we're new to this. And I want to point out, why are we the only people that's constantly posting on social media, my price is my price? Like, I mean, people are angry, like, my price is my price, and I get it. Again, it's like there's a certain expectation of us to always be supportive. I mean, let's take you being Black out of it. I'm a consumer right now. I'm doing smart shopping. This is ridiculous. Like you just mentioned, Moray, why am I paying $30-something for a regular t-shirt with this up here? I want to help you evolve, but we all need to understand there's levels to this. And you will lose more people trying to get rich quick versus just being honest. I don't know. I guess that's really what I had. I have a few other notes here, but I will circle back on that.
Okay. G Prince. You're muted if you're talking.
Okay, and yeah, that's a lot to unpack. So okay, let's I mean, we'll just start off with the the issue of politics and systematic or systemic racism, and why do we, if we complain about these things, why do we continue to vote and spend our dollars outside of our communities? Voting is a touchy subject with people. We can kind of, we could definitely take the position of, hey, let's not talk about it or whatever. But, well, no, I mean, let's talk about it. My thing is, I don't have a problem with people who vote per se. I also don't have a problem with people who do not vote. Do what you feel is in the best interest of you and yours. My thing is, and I think a lot of our thing is if you don't believe in voting, or if you don't believe in participating in any element of politics, any element of on that level, then you should mute your complaints. Because if you're not going to do something definitive, again, to solve the problem, then what is the complainer for? So, for instance, when people say voting doesn't solve anything, and I'm not talking about voting for the president, because we know that has nothing to do with the popular vote. I'm talking about like local politics, city, comptroller, city council, mayor, those type of offices. You'll hear people say, well, that doesn't, those things, it doesn't change anything. It's, it doesn't solve anything. And my question would be, okay, well, as far as you not voting, how is that working out for you? We know for a fact that not doing something doesn't help your situation at all. Mm. So at least with voting, there's a potential that something could actually be changed. Now, again, I'm only talking about local politics. I'm not talking about voting for presidents. Local politics, there's always the possibility that something can be done. But we know for a fact that not voting, absolutely nothing will be done. You could be assured of that. And again, and if a person is comfortable with that, there's no problem. I have no problem with it. But again, it goes right back to our first topic, about the complaining, about, if something, if we're going to complain about something, complain, then we have to bring forth something that's going to solve it. If we're not going to bring forth something that's going to solve the problem, then what is the complaining for? Leave the country. Go to Ghana. I mean, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that because I know if white folks say that just sounds crazy. Go back to Africa, whatever. But that's what I'm saying is that if you feel that you have absolutely no wins on any level here, then everything that you do from this point going forward should be directed towards you being able to remove yourself from that particular society, whatever it is that you're having an issue with. Let all of your movements, let all of your hustles, everything that you're doing, let that lead you to a point where you no longer have to be in an environment where, that we see, with politics. Remove yourself from it. Otherwise, I have an old saying, either recreate the wheel or enjoy the bumpy ride. You know what I'm saying? Recreate the wheel or just enjoy the bumpy ride. But complaining about the bumpy ride is not going to solve anything. So again, with politics, it's a touchy thing, because people have their own, their own sentiments about it, whatever. I'm indifferent. The only thing that I care about is whatever you do or choose not to do, let it be something that's going to lead you to the outcome that you really want, instead of just standing still and complaining about it. Make a movement. You got some people that say, you know what? I don't want nothing to do with America, period. Nothing. And you know what they do? They hustle up their money. They do what they got to do here. And then they depart. They go to Mexico. They go to Honduras. They go to Ghana. They get out of the American system. Now that's a definitive move. But screaming out on Facebook that America is the damn devil, and then and then doing nothing to try to solve whatever the issues are, is kind of counterproductive. But again, we already established earlier that complaining is its own reward. So, as far as now, there was a couple of points that, because I think that was the main topic or whatever. But there was a couple of points that I wanted to cover. Some things that Sharon had brought forth, and I think that there was some good it was some good points about pandering. Pandering. More specifically, like with the why prices. That's what it is. Why prices are more expensive in Black businesses, versus like you go to Target or whatever the case. And and I was one of those people that used to complain about that. Be like, yo, how the hell why is this person selling a t-shirt for $60? That doesn't make any sense. Until I became a merchant and started to deal with these companies outside of America, going over there, to, well, not physically going there, but communicating via like Alibaba.com and these places, and communicating with these people. And then you realize why the prices are the way they are. And I'll just give a quick breakdown of that. Let's say, we'll just take bracelets, like the beaded bracelets. I sell them. Yeah, a lot of people sell them. Now, this is the thing. Let's say you go to a random company. Like right now, I'm looking at this company called Huiso Hongsheng. It's a Chinese company. Now, they're 80 cents a piece, 80 cents wholesale for these bracelets, and you think like, yo, that's good, that's real cheap, whatever like that. But the catch is, in order for it to be 80 cents, you have to buy over 5,000.
Mm-hmm.
You have to buy over 5,000, and we're just talking about something cheap. This is because again, these are we're just talking about bracelets. Imagine if we're talking about shirts. Shirts, they want you to come through. If you want to get that lowest possible price, you gotta buy like 10,000 shirts. And most in small businesses, there's a reason why they're called small businesses, because they don't have the funds to purchase 10,000 shirts at, let's just say, $5 a pop. You do the math to that. And we're just talking about one shirt. You got the companies who got, like, go to Walmart. They got dozens, hundreds of different variations of shirts. But there's a reason why Walmart's able to do it, because Walmart can drop millions of dollars at any given moment on products. Small businesses do not have that. Most small businesses, they might be like, well, I might be able to buy 100 shirts. Now, the problem with 100 shirts is instead of you getting it for $5 a pop, 100 shirts, because you got to make it worth the while of the company. The company say, well, 100 shirts, yeah, $15, $20 a shirt.
$20 a shirt.
And now, so now even with 100 shirts at $20, you do that math, and then now, in order for you to forget about making a profit, in order to recoup that money, you have to sell that shirt. Just to recoup, you gotta sell it for the price that you paid for, but then you gotta up that, because the shipping charge, the shipping of those boxes of shirts the shipping might be $200-$300 because you're shipping it from China.
Trust me, that menorahs that I had, I know.
Okay. So this is the reason why that a lot of people, this is the reason why a lot of people, they see things this way and they're like, yo, people overcharge. Now, mind you, there is people that are out here gouging. For instance, I sell certain type of a brand of menorahs, right? And there's people who go to the same manufacturer that I go to get the same menorahs, the same size menorahs. Now, I'm selling these menorahs between $25-$30. The same people are on Amazon selling them for $100.
Yeah.
$120. Now, so there is price gouging going on, but what I realize in order to figure out whether something is price gouging or if it's just business, you got to be able to get the pricings from these companies. Then you can compare and say, oh, okay, well, all right, the person had to pay $20 to get the shirts. They're selling it for 25. They're selling it for 30. Okay, all right. So they're making a $10 profit. Now, to the consumer, that might be like, oh man, it's still $30, right? But then you still have to look at the person who's doing the business and say, well, yeah, they still have to eat though. So what am I supposed to do? If I buy this shirt for $20, am I supposed to sell it to you for $21 or $22? How much money would I make off of that? You know what I'm saying? I'm not even going to make $100 off of those shirts, and therefore, when you factor in the shipping charges and all of these things, you haven't made anything. In fact, you're still in the red. Mm-hmm. What's the purpose of being in business if you can't make money off your products? But one of the things that I noticed though with that is that we'll go and buy a pair of J's. We know they're overpriced. Why? Because on Alibaba, I'll even give you a link to the actual company that Jordans go to. That company Jordans, that Nike, they go to a certain company on Alibaba. I can show you the company. And those very same sneakers, without the Jordan symbol, without the Nike symbol, it's just the sneaker. Those sneakers are $3 and change a piece.
Yes, he stated that.
They're $3 and change a piece. This is an actual fact. Now, so you get somebody like Stephon Marbury who says, yo, I could make a real quality shoe. I'm paying $3. I'll charge people $14.99.
I bought the bad boys too.
And people like, oh, it's not the same quality as Nikes. But then Stephon called him out there and says, well, actually they are. They come from the same company.
Yep.
The difference is we're all buying it for the same wholesale price. But Jordan is selling them for $200 or $300. And guess what? Do you see lines of people? Do you see people lined up outside saying, we refuse to pay $200 for a pair of sneakers? This is bull. You know, they're like, man, this is expensive, but let me still go and buy them. But then you get a Hebrew who goes to the same company, and I'm not going to put the brother's name out there, who goes to the same company, gets the same shoe, goes and puts a logo, a Hebrew logo on the side of the shoe, and he sells those same type of shoes for $50. You should see some of the review. People had no problem with the quality of the shoe. You know what they kept saying? He's selling it for $50. He's fleecing the flock.
Yep.
What?
But you're wearing Jordans right now. You're wearing Jordans, and you're saying that But this goes back. This is self-hatred because we're not allowed to make money the way the nations make money. See, the nations can come into your community and can slay your pockets every day, and we'll just chalk it up to just business.
Mm-hmm.
When our people come in and we're trying to make money or whatever the case, yes, and yes, the prices are going to be a little bit because again, we're not buying in bulk. We don't have the funds to buy in massive bulk. We have to buy in smaller quantities, which means that the wholesale price is going to be more expensive. That's just business. Mm-hmm. But I'm saying that only to give the flip side to what Sharon was saying, because what Sharon is saying is actual facts. So this is not to negate anything she's saying. What she said is actual fact. that there are people out there who are doing, I mean, just ridiculous amounts of price gouging, selling t-shirt you bought the t-shirt for $2. Why is that shirt $70? Come on now. If you bought the shirt for $2-3, you can sell that shirt for $20 and you're still going to make a killing. And nobody feels any kind of way about it because they're like, oh, a shirt that's $20, $30, oh, that's not bad. Cool.
Yeah.
That's the unfortunate thing, is that you have some people who are price gouging. They're hiding behind the fact that it is true that smaller businesses have to charge more money because they have overhead. They have to be able to make back what they're investing because they're buying smaller quantities, which means that they're not going to get those wholesale prices.
I want to jump in. You know those shirts that I have put out there that hasn't nobody bought, by the way, yet. But the shirt that was like, it had a little writing on it and it was okay, I bought
Yes,
stuff
sir.
like that. That shirt I had to price it at like 40 something. Guess how much I'm getting if somebody bought it? About $8, I think.
Yeah.
Gotta go back. I ain't even went back to it because I'm like, ain't nobody go. Like, it's nice, but anybody pay no $50 to $40 some dollars for that shirt?
Right. Well,
but I had to do that because of in order for if I would have sold it for $20, I'm literally getting $3,
right.
$2, not even $3. I think $2. So.
Right. And that's the reason why, again, to her earlier point, that's the reason why small business, they always say small businesses fail. Like 50% of small businesses fail within the first 6 months, not because of poor quality or things like that, but because small businesses, price-wise, they can't compete with the giants. Listen, I could be selling the same exact thing that Walmart's selling. There's no way that I can compete with Walmart prices. It's not possible. Because when Walmart goes and pays for something, when they go and buy, let's say, rice, and also I know the company Alibaba that Walmart gets their rice from. You go to that site on Alibaba, look at the rice. For each pound of rice, you're gonna pay wholesale offer it. You're gonna pay about $6-7 for a pound. No, not for a pound. I meant to say for a 20-pound bag. But what do they do? But Walmart can say, oh, that's cool. We'll take 20,000 of those, or 50,000 of those, because they're getting so in this massive amounts. The company can say, oh, for that price, okay, so yeah, we'll give it to you for $1.25 per 20-pound bag. That's how Walmart is able to sell all of these products so cheap, because they get them for they get these massive amounts. A mom and pop store cannot compete. And that's why mom and pop stores struggle.
Okay, Kathy, go ahead, Kathy. You got something?
Yeah, Kane. I wanted to add, I guess, a thought process. I'm not trying to make a statement. The thought process. All business owners are aware that there could be a substantial startup cost.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have two questions. So let me finish that sentence. So there could be a substantial cost to start up. Yes, I understand what we're talking about in dealing with the vendors. And again, this is a question. I'm not making a statement. But even though and I guess I can add in from my experience with dealing with marketing and just business. Every business takes a hit in the first to second year. That's realistic. And you should set your business plan as such, because if you don't, then you really become disappointed, and you can actually lose interest.
Right.
Because the first 1 or 2 years, you're feeling yourself, you're feeling your vendors, you're feeling the best process for your business. And so I just see, I've just seen that you're going to take a hit, and that should be included in your plan. I guess I wanted to know, why do we continue to shop abroad? And I know the answer is because we're looking for cheaper prices, manufacturing prices, so we can offer our consumer better prices. But what keeps us from looking, and again, I'm not saying we're not, but why do we even entertain abroad? I guess that's my question. Knowing, I guess, all of the restrictions, again, that's going to come about. You have your shipping, you have your quality of product that you may deal with, especially if you're buying in bulks. And I personally feel, and this may not be in everyone's agreement, but every business owner takes a hit. And like I said, I will revert back to the 2-year plan. Include that. Because you will gain your customers when they go to price compare what you are marketing versus what anyone else is. You're thinking now, oh, I'm doing this. I got a business. I want to make profit. You are going to make profit. But there's levels to it. Think about how you can entice your customers. Price is number one. Quality goes along with one dot A. If you're writing, so it's just, I just feel there are levels to achieving and establishing who you are. Don't measure your goals by someone else that was able to do it, because again, I'll refer back. You don't see too many Caucasian people or too many people outside of ourselves talking about our price is our price, because we get stuck on the fact, I have a business, I'm independent, I'm going to make, I don't have to do this. These people don't want to revert back working for someone else. So they are looking for instant gratification. They are looking for their bank account to grow instantly. They don't understand, again, that there's levels to this.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen a lot of people prosper more by losing. Because again, that's the average prediction. You're going to lose more in your first and second year in your business if you're doing it correctly, because you are supposed to be trying to pull in these people. You're not, your attention should not be try to get rich overnight. And that's where I think we lose a lot of dealings with our people, because they are excited and they want that they're no longer working for someone, or this could be a side business or whatever, and they want instant gratification, but it doesn't happen like that. You cannot mess people over in the process of you being successful. And that's all I got.
All right, all right. Did anyone else have anything to add before we go to the second song? Going once, going twice. And for those that's tuning in, welcome to YAH Conscious Radio. Well, if it's not YAH Conscious Radio, it is not acceptable. Please share, subscribe, like, comment. We do appreciate it. The next song that we have is by none other than King Malachi again. And it is Jerusalem. How many of you know that song already? How many know Jerusalem? Well, you're going to learn it today. Here we go.
Yeah, I miss Jerusalem. Swear I miss Jerusalem. Yeah, I miss Jerusalem. Jerusalem. Hope I get to see it someday. Yeah. I wanna see Jerusalem. Yeah. Hope I get to see it someday. See it someday. Yeah. When David on the throne, just know that everything gonna be perfect. Ezekiel already wrote it, very simple on how he worded. Everything flawless, most high always flawless. I stick to the script because I really know who the boss is. Put it together, created the world, no other God, so I never settle. I ain't even tripping cause the Father gon' work it out. Just like back in Egypt when the Father brought us out, yeah. He did it before, he gon' do it again. We gonna win, we gon' have it again, yeah. I'm sick of living like we never count. We need our home like the word in our mouth. Jerusalem, yeah. Hope I get to see it someday. Yeah. I wanna see Jerusalem. Yeah. Hope I get to see it someday. See it someday. Yeah. We had it before. That was long ago. That's a fact, willing to put that on my soul. We the children came over on the boat. South Carolina came over on the boat. Afro-Asiatic, I am Afro-Asiatic. Asiatic, Afro-Asiatic. Abraham, my father, he was Afro-Asiatic. When it comes to scripture, I just spit like automatic. City of David, Levi was the high priest, annually had 3 feasts. You had to make it. Yahweh commanded, we broke his commandments, yeah.
Yeah. Now, other than King Malachi, Yerushalayim or Jerusalem. That was King Malachi. For those that don't know, make sure you go search him out on YouTube. I think that was on his White Linen album. Could be wrong, but I think I'm right. Those that's tuned in, welcome to YAH Conscious Radio. Well, if it's not YAH Conscious, it's not acceptable. Please share, like, subscribe, comment. All right. So the last and the final topic, we might have another one, but last and final, because I want to bring something out. So hopefully we have enough time. A little small topic to throw up in there, or we'll save it for later. But last one, and that is, we admire the unity of other nations, but continue to stray from unity with our people. How can we explain being the only nation of people that are exposed to these types of conditions? Again, we admire the unity of other nations, but continue to stray from unity with our people. How can we explain being the only nation of people that are exposed to these types of conditions? Same order. Starting with Oxymoron.
So this question reminds me of like on when they say, have you ever seen a Chinese person get gas? And then I'm like, you know what? Dang. No, I haven't.
I'm sitting there thinking right now.
And then they go to say, have you ever seen a Chinese person no, have you ever seen a Chinese commercial advertising their food? And I'm like, no, I don't think I have. Have you ever seen other nations, as far as a mother or as far as women, have you ever gave birth alongside another person who's from another nation? And I'm like, I never had that experience. So it kind of, it brings me to the point that I'm trying to make as far as when you got these other nations secluded. No, it brings me to the point of these other nations have their own communities established, and they do whatever they have to do to not step out of those community boundaries. And that doesn't mean that we don't have our communities established on a selective scale. Once again, I do witness and I do see that we are establishing communities within our own, but is those communities supported enough to
Right.
thrive? Um, I think in order for us to gain some type of unity within our own, we have to learn how to talk about things that makes us uncomfortable. We have to learn conflict resolution. We have to learn the benefits of group economics. We have to learn a lot of things that is the sole definition of what it is to be unified. And on a majority scale, we just uncomfortable with those dynamics. I've always posed an idea like, hey, we should all get a big old house and let's all move in there. If we get like 5 families and we all just purchase some big old houses, let's move some cousins, some nieces, nephews, some aunties in there, and we can really thrive, based off group economics. And a lot of people are like, what if I don't like them? Or what if I can't? Or what if they do this? Or what if they do that? Or I like being by myself. Or I don't like people in my personal space. Yeah, I get that. But I feel like the group economics part of it should overwhelm our personal our personal discomfort of such a situation. We just aren't comfortable, as I've witnessed. We are too comfortable with the convenience of doing for self, and we aren't comfortable with um, making the necessary changes or talking about the necessary changes in order for us to unify as a whole. Why we aren't comfortable with that, I have no idea. It could be like how Chief Zabulin said. It could be self-hatred. It's also a psychological warfare as well. It's mental as well. And I think we just need to learn how to we need to learn the basis all over again on how to dwell with our people again. We lost touch of that, I believe.
I agree.
Zehu.
All right. Good points put out there. So this question, right? We admire the unity of other nations. You know what's crazy is we won't admit that. We won't admit that. We will say that the other nations mimic us and things of that nature, that nature, or things of that. We would say that, and I agree to a certain extent on certain things, but we won't admit that we admire the unity of these other nations, because it's a certain I believe pride. You know what's interesting is the other nations, when they admire, they take from what they admire and they add to theirs to make theirs more potent,
Damn.
whatever it is they're thriving, are striving towards. And I think it just continues to go back to what we've been saying this whole entire show. I think it even goes into what Chief Prezebulon brought out with the self-hatred. And when we say self-hatred, I don't believe he's saying it in a way to where it's like, I hate you. You know what I'm saying? Maybe he is, but I don't believe that's the case. I think
Right.
it's more so like you don't even realize that you do. You know, I might have had instances where I did and I didn't even realize it, because I think it's also due to ignorance, not being taught certain things, not having enough information, and I think that one of the only ways we can get back to what we're speaking of right now is starting with our youth and teaching them, because it's a lot of us that's older that didn't. It's certain things I didn't know until I was 29. And by then, it was kind of too late. There's things I didn't know until I was like 31, 32. And by then, it was kind of too late. Now, all I could do is go forward and change it and shift it, but it was already done. You know, so the self-hate, I don't believe is necessarily like you hate people.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's more so you just are doing things that can be not even can be viewed as such, but the action of what you're doing is just that. It's not a fact of like you literally hating. It's just you're doing something that you don't even realize is harming your people. So if you're not helping your people and you're harming them, then you're kind of hating your people and don't even know it. So we admire the unity of other nations, but continue to stray from unity with our people. We have a certain disdain for our people due to what we all been speaking of tonight. It goes back. So what can we do? The only thing we can do is keep pushing information. And here's the thing. We prefer, it goes back to the drama. You can push information and try to teach people all you want. But if a person prefers this, it's going to take them to change and take in the information that you're teaching them or that you're putting out, so that we can start bringing this unity. It's going to take those people to want to unify. So we can talk all day about this, and I'm willing to and I want to, but it goes back to what I've always said and what I continue to say. It's only a remnant of a remnant that's going to see the things that we're talking about and not only just talk about it, but actually going to do it. You talked about the platforms, Oxymoron. You talked about the platforms. We talk. But as soon as it's done, they forgot they were saying it. They forgot they were saying it. So the unifying, it's always going to be on a, as you say, selective or a small scale. I don't know if it's going to be big unless Most High Yah really pushes out there and make us do it. How can we explain being the only nation of people that are exposed to these types of conditions? I think on a large scale is what the message in this question is saying. How come on a large scale? Because we know modern wise today, you know, modernly, certain things are starting to hit every group of people, but not on a large scale. So on a large scale, I think we are probably, if not the only, one of the groups that are doing what this question is asking. So it just boils back to trying to unify, trying to break that post-traumatic slave syndrome, I think, that keeps attacking. But I'm going to get away from that book because I think we're in 2022. You know, so-called 2022. These excuses got to stop. We just got a desire to change a lot of these things that we're talking about today and get away from these oxymorons that was brought out. With that, I yield. I want to go ahead and pass it to Kabeta Kathy. And there you go.
Yeah, there I go. I'm here. I actually, you and Sister Sharon really took all of my thoughts and process out of it. The one word that I got to go back that I will refer back to, excuse me, is just discipline. Again, you got to look at some of these nations and how they are ruled. They don't have as much free will as we do.
That's right.
So we will never be like that as a nation. So it just comes down to self-discipline, community discipline, congregational discipline. I mean, really, if you want anything, you have to apply yourself. I just, like I said, you both really said a mouthful. And, the foundation is just very important. And that's what I have to say.
And don't get me wrong, like, it is some people out there within your own people, and we have these people within our own family as well that are very incompetent and can be reckless, or you can be living with a drunkard, or things like that. So I don't want no one to misunderstand me when I say, let's all gather and dwell together and get a big old house and voila, it's going to be perfection from thence. Because you do have those individuals where you just can't dwell with. Sometimes it's impossible to dwell with these type of people.
Kang.
Come on now.
It was another. And another thing I can say, and I'm not afraid to admit, is that I do admire the unity from other nations. How can you come over here and bang, you got a nail shop within 6 months? And this black woman been you take her through the hoops 2-3 years just to establish a child care center, or just to establish a shop where she sell oils and shea butters. But you have these Ethiopians, bam, come over here, bam. Yep. They got their shop within three months. But it goes back to the point of maybe they have such a great support system behind them. And it goes back to the point of prophecy as well, on what the Almighty said, what shall happen.
But they also consider that as well. They also have a different support system from the government than we do. They want their business. And this is just my opinion. And I know Chief is going to chime in, but again, I personally believe it's just a part of the setup. That's why we have to get better with dealing with ourselves. They're going to give them that opportunity. We have to have a credit score that starts at 7 or 8 to even entertain what these people are able to achieve. Like you said, 30 to 90 days after being here. Right off the boat. It goes back to showing that the government doesn't have in our best interest in heart. So again, how are we going to move forward when we can't even deal with each other?
That's why on certain applications, when they want to know your race, they want to know your race and your gender. That within itself has an agenda as well. It's an agenda within that itself.
But they tell you it's a part of just collective, data or whatever. No, it's not.
I love just how y'all go back and forth. That was good.
but just one last comment. I've noticed that not all of our people, but some of our people, they don't like to pass the torch. And what I mean by that is, if you have the upper hand, or if you have this knowledge or resources to help your fellow brother or your fellow sister to rise up, why can't you pass that torch down onto them, regardless of if y'all get along or not? Where these other nations, they don't necessarily have to dwell together, or they don't necessarily have to get along with the next nation or the next family within their bloodline. but they will help them rise above. They will pass the torch. For an example, it can be a family, they haven't been seeing eye to eye, or some neighbors they haven't been seeing eye to eye, but they are from the same nation. And if that person come to them and say, hey, I need you to help me get them in school, or I need you to raise this money, or I need this, or I need that, they're going to go on and do it, because they have the understanding of the bigger picture when it's time to unite with their people, or it's time to unify, or it's time to be there for your people. Where our people, we have it, but it could be a lot better. Sometimes we just do not like to pass on those resources. And for those who do pass on the resources to your people, I love you and I admire you and I applaud you. And I do have people that's in my personal circle and outside of my personal circle who do pass the torch and the resources to their people. So this message is not for them at all.
Okay.
Zeho.
Kathy, Kathy, you got a hair raise after you. I'm gonna pass it to Chief Prince Abullah.
Kane, actually, it's just a question, and I'm going to shut it down, and maybe Chief can answer it in his response. But I heard something, and I don't want to quote the amount of times, but I heard there was a significant amount of time before a dollar or any sort of revenue was transferred out of the Jewish community.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Ours is for so-called black, it's 6 hours, they say. For I don't know the order between the white Jewish and the Korean, I think it was, but I know one was like 30 days, 15 days, and like 20-something days, something like that. And we're 6 hours. And what's crazy is back in Black Wall Street days, we got to the point where it was 100 days, according to what I researched. So
yeah,
we're able to get that. We can do it, but it's harder now due to it. I go get to that. But to answer your question, 6 hours it's said that we are 6 hours today. So-called whites are like maybe, I don't know, maybe 15, 13. And then you have the Jewish that might be like 18, 20, and then the Koreans or whoever, they're high. I think they're the highest, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
She has numbers than I have though, but I know those are the four, and that's how I know it's 6 hours. That's all I do know.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Wow. Toda.
But and before I even get into the my own response to the actual topic, to that point though, I think we also got to keep in mind that those numbers, while they're true, they're a little bit skewed.
Yeah, that's why I said it's so-called too. I made sure.
Right. I mean, they're like the numbers. Like if you look it up, the numbers are there. It says what it says, but it's the background of those numbers that makes it even more important. Why does the dollar only circulate 6 hours in the black community? The answer is obvious.
We're going outside ourselves. Everything.
Because we have nothing.
Right.
We have nothing to buy. The reason why the dollar can circulate in the Jewish community for and I've seen estimates of 2 weeks up to 3 months. So we don't really know what the Jewish number is. I mean, I've seen these whatever, but the reason why it stays so long in the Jewish community is because the Jewish community they've created a community in which they have no need to go out.
Yeah.
This is the reason why you don't see Jewish people shopping in Korean neighborhoods. What do the Koreans have that the Jewish people can't give for themselves or that they can't manufacture? They don't need literature. Why? Because they produce their own literature. Yep. They don't need to go out and outsource teachers because they have their own teachers. They literally can live right next to you in a neighborhood. And those of us, who if you ever be in New York, the Jewish people, they're notorious for setting up neighborhoods right next to African Americans. They're notorious for it. But need to go outside of their community. They are completely self-sustained. We can say the same thing about
Yep.
right. They completely self-sustained.
Yep.
We could say the same thing about the Koreans. We could say the same thing about the about the Irish. We could say the same. All of these groups. That's why their dollar can last, because they have other functions in the community that allows the dollar to circulate. What do Black people have in the Black community that will keep the dollar in? You can't say what the most lucrative businesses at this point among Black people is what? Hair.
Barbershops, yeah.
Right. Hair shops, beauty shops, and we know that. But outside of that, it has no value outside of what we do, because number one, we don't produce our own. I mean, think about it. Beauty supply. We produce our own hair. We outsource. Our women are getting hair. They're outsourcing hair from other people. You never see Indian people come into Black neighborhoods and say, "Hey, let me get some of your kinky hair." They don't. They're self-sustained. They don't need anything. We are the ones who are always we're always looking to get. Oh, we need this. We need that. Whatever. We have nothing. I mean, everything that we eat comes from people outside of our communities.
Okay.
Everything that we eat comes from people outside. All of our literature. Think about it. We are Hebrews, right? We say it every day. I'm Hebrew Israelite. Yeah, no doubt. Where do you get your Torahs from? The very book that you use to prove your identity is manufactured by who? When you want to go to learn Hebrew, who do you go to learn your language from? When the Hebrew teaches Hebrew, what do they say? When the Israelite teaches Hebrew, they question whether your knowledge of Hebrew is really real. But a Khazar, any white man with some strings hanging from his shirt, can roll up and say, "Hey, I know Hebrew." And what do? Teach me, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Our entire existence is in outsourcing. That's why the dollar only lasts 6 hours in the Black community, because the Black community has nothing of any value that the dollar can be used on to circulate. What do we? I mean, you see what I'm saying? I mean, outside. I mean, I know you do. I was saying, being rhetorical, whatever. But that's why the dollar doesn't have, because there's nothing for us to use the dollar for in our community, because we don't produce anything other than what? We produce music. Okay, fine. You know what I'm saying? We produce music. What else? What else of value? Everything that we have that's of value, we've gotten it from somebody else.
And that's why I don't know if you went into your points here, but that's why, when people talk about, like, they speak on the scholarly work outside of us. Me and you had this conversation. I'm like, we can write our own literature, which I am in the works of. Of course, you got 15 books. We can write, probably more, I don't know, but we can write our own. Like, think about it. A lot of the scholars that we listen to or speak on, who did they go to get some of their information from? From us. They talk to people who did oral traditions, who memorized things pertaining to their culture, and they would go and they would sit there for weeks and learn from this person. Then come back and start, coming up with their research and all that other stuff, which is okay, cool. But my point is, someone talked to me the other day. I forgot, not the other day, probably a few months ago. And I say, it's cool to get the information and stuff from them, but that's not gonna be my authority when it comes to stuff that I put together. I literally will look at these things, but I'm the people of the book.
Right. And speaking of admiring the other nations for whatever it is, Here's something that I do admire about Chinese people, and I don't mean like the regular Chinese people who make you fried rice and whatever the hell those meats are that they're cooking. Who knows what they are? But I'm not talking about those Chinese people. I'm talking about the high tech Chinese people. Look what they do. Think about the times in the past 25 years. Not just Chinese, but like let's take North Korea for instance. You'll get something that'll come in. You get they'll have like an American plane or a jet or whatever from another country. Countries like China, North Korea, they'll shoot it down. not to really jack it up, but just enough to for them to land the plane. They'll take the plane and they will dismantle the plane piece by piece. Study the pieces, replicate them, and then ship the plane back to whatever the country in pieces in large freighters, crates or whatever like that. Send it back. So what did we learn from that? That they're like, well, you know what? We'll outsource. We'll go get something from this group or that group. But what do? We get it, we study it, we learn how it is made, we replicate it, and we keep track of how it's replicated, and then we send it back to them. Now we don't ever have to get anything from them because we've already mastered how to do it.
Yeah.
This is why with our people, this is what we should be doing. And a lot of us are doing it. So let me, because we don't want to get caught up in the fishbowl mentality. Many of us are doing it. What do we do when we go? It's like the concept of the spook that sat by the door. You go and send you have what is it, the community in Dimona with the late great Ben Ami Ben Israel. In that community, what they would do, they would take members of their community and say, you know what, we're going to send you, sister, we're going to send you into the into the medical field. Study everything that you can study, get everything that you can get from that. And then what is necessary for the community, you bring it back to the community, and then we replicate what we need for the community. They do the same thing with production of soy. Or the time, I don't really deal with soy like that anymore, but they go and find out how soy is made. Once they figured it out, they went and figured out how to make soy producing machines. Once they figured that out, they never outsourced for soy again because they built their own machines and they manufactured everything right there in the community. Our people are doing it, but what's happened, the reason, and this goes back into the point about the unity with our people, it's not that we can't do it. Everybody's doing it on a smaller scale. It's the larger scale that we're not doing it. And let's not get caught up in the myth of when people say, oh yeah, other nations, they got unity. No, these other nations, they're just as disjointed as we are. Again, take the Jewish people. How many denominations is among the Jewish people? How many denominations? Reform, Reform, moderate, Hasidic, Orthodox, ultra Orthodox. You got it's a bunch of these denominations, and a lot of the stuff they don't agree on very little. But what they do agree on is what? Is that we are the Jewish people. And anything and anybody who comes against that community, you never hear about their differences. All of a sudden, they all converge in one spot, and they're like, we are God's people, and you're not going to be anti-Semitic. They understand that we can differ, and we can have our differences and disagreements and all of these different things, but they have a central thing that they focus on and say, we are Israel. And that's what we're going to unify on. Same thing with Hispanic people. They have all of their issues. Mexicans don't like Cubans. Cubans don't like Puerto Ricans. Puerto Ricans don't like Dominicans. Let someone say anything about the Latino community, and all of a sudden, all of those differences go away. Now it's the Latino people that come in and they address their issues. All peoples do this, but we're the ones who are not doing it. It's not that we can't do it. It's just that we have not found a unifying point, something that that everybody agrees on, that we can come and say, you know what, this will be our rallying point. This is the point that we're going to rally with, even amongst Israel. Remember back in the days, it used to be, hey, you know, we all know we Israel. You know what I'm saying? We all Deuteronomy 28. If nothing else, we know certain things, whatever. But now people are like, well, I don't know, whatever. Because again, unity, you know what unity does? Unity does exactly what we covered in the first topic. It solves all of the problems. And if you have no problems, you have no complaints. If you have no complaints, you have nothing else to do with your life.
Nor do you have a voice.
Oh, you mean an individual voice?
Yeah, because again, like you said, a lot of people individually, collectively, like you said, just they hark on this, that this is what they enjoy. So if we did it,
yeah,
they have nothing to constantly publicize about.
Right. I mean, and you can have, you know, listen, unity doesn't mean, unity doesn't mean that, and we'll use the term that we see in the scriptures when it says that they all came together as one man.
Yeah.
Now, you can do that. That doesn't take away your individuality, because we're still individuals. Even people who are in the same congregation and who have the same tenets, the same doctrinal tenets, even amongst them, there's also shades of little differences, because we're individuals, because we think we have our own individual thoughts. Hold on one second.
Okay. And I think what Gabetta Kathy was bringing out too is, you could correct me if I'm wrong, Gabetta Kathy. Some people will feel that that individual voice would be gone if we came together and unified. You know, I don't know if that's where you were going with it, so correct me if I'm wrong. But you know, I see that too. A lot of people just prefer the individuality, individualite.
Yeah,
Oh,
and I
that's
guess, and there's
Agreed.
nothing, and there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong, again, with having an individual, an individual viewpoint on certain things, because at the end of the day, before we even came into a congregation, we had our mind, we have our thoughts, and there's nothing wrong with that, as long as we understand that you can have those thoughts, as long as it doesn't interfere with the central purpose of us as a people.
okay.
So you can come together as one man, or to be correct, to be politically correct, as one woman or whatever like that. But we can come together as one person for that which is going to affect us as a nation, and you can still have your own individual thoughts. You know what I'm saying? That's fine, but we have to be able. It's just like you can have city and state laws, but they all are superseded by what? Federal law.
Okay.
You can have your city law. You can have your little boroughs, and okay, how things is done in Baltimore and how things are done in New York. That's great. Do your thing, as long as it doesn't interfere with what? Federal law. Federal law is the focus. Everything else, and I think that's what it is. We're still, we're not. We talk about we are the nation of Israel. It sounds good, because we see it in scripture. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, we're the nation of Israel. But we as a people now, we're not the nation of Israel. What we are is, we're like the Hyksos.
Mm-hmm.
We're a roving band of Hebrews who are linked only by a few cultural connections, whether it be language, dress code, whatever the case may be. That's what we are. We are a 12. We're not even a 12-tribe confederacy. Forget about nation. I mean, forget about 12-tribe confederacy. We are like the Hyksos. We're just a roving band of tribes, clans, and families who happen to fall under the worship of the same deity. It just so happens that we all serve Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, or some people Ahia. But it's, saying the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That is what is connecting us. So again, it's not that we can't unify, because you can look at various camps. Camps are unified amongst themselves with no problem. You know what I'm saying? It's not that we can't do it. It's just that, are we ready to do it on a larger scale, in a more important scale? Doing it in the comfort of your own home or in the comfort of your own camp is cool, but it's not affecting any significant change in anything. It just shows that you guys are okay. Your camp is fine. You know what I'm saying? We have to get to the point where, once again, if we're going to admire the other nations, well, let's admire them about this, that they all have a centerpiece what they focus on, and say, regardless of what we believe in our own situations, we all focus on this, and this is what we're going to converge on and make things happen. But again, it goes back to us being able to, we have to start finding ways to produce our own clothing, which is being done, but clothing, literature, our own teachers, our own nurses, all of these things. Until then, we will continue to admire other nations, not because we love what the other nations are doing. It's because we don't have nothing to admire in ourselves. So you have to go outside and admire somebody else, because we have nothing right now. It's not that it's not that the ancient Israelites did not admire the Greeks because the Greeks were a great people. They were a bunch of barbarians. They admired them because it was something new and it was something that they weren't accustomed to. That doesn't mean it's good. We have to get to the point where the admiration comes from what the Most High has given us. Okay. If we say that we are Yisrael, if we say that we are the sons and daughters of Yah, well, as the 5%ers will say, show and prove.
Okay. All right. Those is tuning in now or tuning in later, welcome to YAH Conscience Radio. Well, if it's not YAH Conscious, it is not acceptable. Make sure you share, like, subscribe, comment. We appreciate all of you for tuning in. I'm going to play the last song of this evening, and then we are going to, unless any of the panelists have anything else to add, we will close out. I did want to show a 5-minute video, but I probably save this for a later date. If it's still, if the topic is still hot. But yeah. So we can wait on that and see if we agree on bringing that out. But I'm gonna play the last song of the evening, and then we're going to go ahead and close out if no one has anything else to add. Going once, going twice. Sold. Last song. King Malachi, Abraham's friend.
Timeline. Oh my god.
Remember once I was lost. But then you found me again. Had so much love in your arms. Said you was Abraham's friend. Remember when I was lost. Then you found me again. Had so much love in your arms. Said you was Abraham's friend. Yeah. I had to make some changes in my life. Abraham, he really did it right. Showed me how I'm supposed to live my life. Live it right. Yeah, bury my body in scripture when you sum up my life. When it comes down to the scripture, give it all of my life. I'd have been lost in a trap house with a table full of white. Now I be wearing white linen, I be glowing at night. Now I'm attracting the women who be praying hard at night. I am considered an Abraham, need a Sarah on my side. We can go have us an Isaac or a Jacob, keep the bloodline lit. Prophetical bloodline, tap into supreme lineage. That's what's up. Most I say he'll never leave a store. Yeah, Father, right now we need you in a rush. Yeah, resurrect our body from the dust. Remember once I was lost. Remember once I was lost. But then you found me again. Then you found me again. Had so much love in your arms. So much love in your arms. Said you was Abraham's friend. Remember when I was lost. Remember when I was lost. Then you found me again. Then you found me again. Had so much love in your arms. Said you was Abraham's friend. Yeah. I had to make some changes in my life. Abraham, he really did it right. Show me how I'm supposed to live my life. Live it right. Yeah. Abraham, my father, my body got his blood. That mean forever, my children got his blood. That mean forever, King David be my blood. We shine forever, my people be the blood. We them people with salvation in our blood. When we eat our meat, we separate it from the blood. Grew up as a Christian on first Sunday, drink blood. That's abomination, that was never for us. Came to America out of our element. They keep on killing us, cover our melanin. They know inside really we got the fire. Erase our history, this is a punishment. That's why I keep singing with melody. My job gotta get in your soul. Abraham, he done gave us the recipe. Study him, let it get in your soul. Remember once I was lost. But then you found me again. Then you found me again. Had so much love in your arms. So much love in your arms. Said you was Abraham's friend. Remember when I was lost. Remember when I was lost. Then you found me again. Then you found me again. Had so much love in your arms. Said you was Abraham's friend. Yeah. I had to make some changes in my life. Abraham, he really did it right. Show me how I'm supposed to live my life. Live it right. Yeah.
All right. And that concludes today's segment. I hope those of you that are tuning in enjoyed yourself. Hope you learned something or something that was said resonated with you with these particular topics. Anyone have anything to say to Zakim Malachi Night? Huh? Yeah, got to go ahead and play some of his songs. He wasn't able to make it, so got to promote him a little bit.
I like that. I like that last song. That was dope. And I'm not, you know me. I'm not a big like the trap sound.
Yeah.
I'm like I said, I'm an old school New Yorker, so I have the boom bap. That's where my sensibilities is at. But every once in a while, I hear something in that trap, in that trap sound, and I'm like, yo, that's actually pretty damn good. And I like that's one of those songs where I'm like, yep, I like that one. That was really good.
Okay. All right, everyone. Until next time. Yibrechem, Yahweh Yishmarechem. May the Most High bless and keep or guard you all. Shalom, shalom.
Hallelujah, shalom, shalom.